Welcome to High School Academic Derby, brought to you by the Onslow County Schools. Today we have a match between Richlands and Northside. Our scorekeeper today is Gail Thomas. Let's meet our coaches and their players for the first round. We'll start with Richlands, coached by Tiffany Rhodes. Her players will be
May Keeley, senior.
Alex Epley, senior. Bailey Biggers, senior.
Austin Futrell, senior.
the Northside coach is Rachel Livermore. Her players will be
James McBroom, senior.
Rico Castillo, junior.
Brian Wharton, senior.
Jasmine Bryant, freshman.
Your first toss-up in this round deals with musicals. The satirical musical The Book of Mormon was created by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, who also created what popular animated TV show? Bailey.
Naruto.
Incorrect. You want to try Northside? Brian.
South Park.
South Park is correct. For your bonus, name each of the following musicals based on the given description. Number 1, in pre-revolutionary Russia, it concerns a poor Jewish peddler who must contend with marrying off his 3 daughters while anti-Semitic sentiment threatens his home. Second musical is about 2 youths from rival New York gangs that fall in love. Number 3, in this musical, a con man comes to a Midwestern town with a scam that targets the boys' marching band. And number 4, in this musical, the barber does more than just haircuts and shaves. Brian.
For number 1, we have Fiddler on the Rooftop. For number 2, we have West Side Story. And for number 4, we have Sweeney Todd.
2 and 4 are correct for 4 points. Richlands, 1 or 3?
For 1, we don't have anything, and for 3, we have Music Man.
Music Man is correct for 2 points. Number 1 was Fiddler on the Roof, not Rooftop. Architecture. In architecture and construction, which 4-letter noun designates the overhanging edge of a roof? It's called the eave. History. One of the most traditional and isolated societies on Earth, when Commodore Matthew C. Perry sailed an American fleet into one of its major bays in 1853, this nation is now home to over 127 million people. Brian.
Japan.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following associated with Japan. Number 1, name the emperor in power during World War II. Number 2, the name given to the 2 storms that are said to have saved Japan from Mongol invasions by Kublai Khan. Number 3, name of the emperor in whose name imperial rule was restored at the end of the Tokugawa shogunate. And number 4, the name given to powerful territorial lords in pre-modern Japan who ruled most of the country from their vast hereditary land holdings. Brian.
For number 1, we have Hirohito. And for number 4, we have Shoguns.
Number 1 is correct for 2 points. 2, 3, or 4, Richlands?
We don't have any of those.
Number 2 is Kamikaze. Number 3, the Meiji. And number 4, Daimo. Astronomy. This unit of distance used in astronomy is equal to about 3.25 light years. Bailey. Sorry, and I'll read it from the beginning for Northside. This unit of distance used in astronomy is equal to about 3.25 light years and corresponds to the distance at which the mean radius of the Earth's orbit subtends an angle of 1 second of arc. Name it. Brian.
Astronomical unit.
It's called a parsec. Your next toss-up deals with authors. What TV series was based on a series of novels by Charlaine Harris? Answer is True Blood. For your next toss-up, we'll have a history question. An outgrowth of 17th century intellectual attainments and a philosophical movement of the 18th century that celebrated reason and the scientific method, this period of European history saw much... Brian.
The Enlightenment.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following related to periods of history. Number 1, what century did the Protestant Reformation begin in Europe? Number 2, what two-word phrase was used by Mark Twain to describe the late 1800s in the United States, where there was much wealth that only served to cover up many of our country's problems? Number 3, what name is given to the era in English and Scottish history that succeeds the Elizabethan era and precedes the Caroline era? And number 4, what name is given to the present age and originates from the massive availability of knowledge? Ryan.
For number 1, we have the 15th century. For number 2, we have the Gilded Age. For number 3, we have the Victorian era. And for number 4, we have the Information era.
2 and 4 are correct for 4 points. Richlands, 1 or 3?
For 1, we have the 14th, and for 3, we have the Golden Age.
Number 1 is the 16th century, and number 3 is the Jacobean era. Math calculation, so I'll read it twice for you. Find the equations of the two vertical asymptotes for the function f of x equals 3 divided by the quantity x squared minus 25. James.
Plus 5 minus 5.
Yes. For your bonus, identify the asymptotic equations of each of the following functions. Be sure to specify in your answer x equals and y equals, or y equals, please. Number 1, f of x equals 9 divided by x vertical. Number 2, f of x equals the quantity x squared plus 3x minus 4 divided by the quantity 3x squared minus 5. Number 3, f of x equals the tangent of x over the period 0 to 2 pi. Give the vertical equation and express it in radians, please. And number 4, f of x equals 1 divided by the square root of the quantity x minus 4. Brian.
For number 1, we have x equals 0, and for number 4, we have x equals 4.
Those are both correct for 4 points. Richlands, 2 or 3?
For 2, we have x equals square root of 2. That's it.
For number 2, the answer is y equals 1/3, and for number 3, x equals pi over 2 and x equals 3 pi over 2. And that's the end of our first round. We'll come back with the score in round 2 right after this.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
At the end of round 1, our score is Northside 23, Richlands 2. We have new players to meet for both teams. We'll start with those from Richlands.
Catherine Conrad, sophomore.
Madison Franklin, senior.
And from Northside, we have
Leslie Trong, freshman.
Justin Batista, sophomore.
First toss-up is from geography. Located in Canima, and I'm going to spell this Canaima, National Park in Venezuela. This landform is the tallest of its kind, measuring, Brian?
Angel Falls.
Correct. For your bonus, identify the continent where each of the following waterfalls are located. Number 1, Victoria Falls. Number 2, Iguazu Falls, Iguazu. Number 3, Dettifoss Falls. And number 4, Horseshoe Falls. Brian?
For number 1, we have South America. For 2, we have Africa. For 3, we have Asia. And for 4, we have Australia.
None of those are correct. Richlands?
For 1, we have Africa. For 2, we have South America. For 3, we have Europe. And for 4, we have North America.
And those are all correct for 10 points. Your next toss-up deals with words. Which adjective of 6 letters that begins with the letter D is a synonym for submissive? The answer is docile. Presidential campaigns. Which 3-word slogan, made popular by a fast food chain spokesperson named Clara, was also used by Walter Mondale in the 1984 presidential campaign? Madison.
Where's the beef?
That's correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following associated with U.S. presidential campaign slogans. Number 1, the 20th century candidate whose slogan was, "It's morning again in America." Number 2, the 1856 candidate whose slogan began, "Free soil, free labor, free speech, free men." Number 3, the 1840 candidate whose Tippecanoe and Tyler too slogan helped earn a victory. And number 4, the 21st century candidate whose vice presidential running mate often chanted, "Drill, baby, drill." Alex.
For 1, we have Woodrow Wilson. For 2, we have Lincoln. For 3, we have William Henry Harrison. And for 4, we have John McCain.
3 and 4 are correct for 4 points. Northside, 1 or 2?
For number 1, we have Teddy Roosevelt. And for 2, we have Andrew Jackson.
Number 1 was Ronald Reagan, and number 2, John C. Fremont. Chemistry. Used as an acidifying agent to give colas their tangy flavor, this common compound's chemical formula is H3PO4. Name this compound that's also used to remove rust. Alex.
Hydrofluoric acid.
Incorrect. Want to try it, Northside? It's phosphoric acid. Math calculation, I'll read it twice for you. Give both the name of the conic section and the direction it opens for the equation y squared equals 3x plus 4. Give both the name of the conic section and the direction it opens for the equation y squared equals 3x plus 4. Rico.
Is it a parabola that opens up?
Incorrect. Richlands. It is a parabola, but it opens right. Geography. Which African nation's current one-word name is synonymous with its former name, Southern Rhodesia? Zimbabwe. Figurative language. Name the faux pas committed when one places something or someone not in the correct historical or chronological time in a literary passage or work of art. It's called an anachronism. Famous names. Name the American reformer and politician who was elected as the first female representative in the U.S. House in 1916 and was later reelected in 1940. She holds the distinction of being the only member of Congress to vote against the declarations of war in both World War I and II. And her name was Jeanette Rankin. Next toss-up has to do with vocabulary. Derived from the Greek meaning a view through, this noun designates a three-dimensional miniature or life-sized scene made up of figures or inanimate wildlife. Brian?
Diorama.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following terms or objects that also begin with the letter D. Number 1, the former basic monetary unit of Greece. Number 2, a large lump or portion of food, especially ice cream or other creamy accompaniment. Number 3, a tiny water plant, the main element of plankton that consists of only one golden brown cell. And number 4, a gold coin formerly used in Spain and Spanish America. Brian?
For number 2, we have a dollop. For number 3, we have a diatom. And for number 4, we have doubloons.
Those are all three correct for 6 points. Richlands, number 1?
Is it drachma?
That is correct as well for 2 points. U.S. history. A mob of anarchists assassinated Tsar Alexander II in March of 1881. Assassin Charles J. Guiteau took the life of which president less than 4 months later? Alex?
McKinley?
Incorrect. Northside? Garfield. Biology. In which form of asexual reproduction does a new plant or animal develop as an outgrowth of some part of the parent's body? It's called budding. Authors. Known as the creator of gonzo journalism, this author, Justin. Okay, that's incorrect, and I'll read it from the beginning for Richlands. Known as the creator of gonzo journalism, this author of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and The Great Shark Hunt achieved international fame with his work Hell's Angels, the strange and terrible saga of the outlaw motorcycle gangs. Name this author whose initials are H.T. Hunter Thompson. Art toss-up. Giotto, Masaccio, Leonardo, and Diego Rivera have all created masterpieces in this medium of fresco art. What name is given to these often magnificent undertakings that cover entire walls or ceilings? Rico?
Surrealism.
Incorrect. Richlands? Austin?
A mural?
Close on that. Yes, a mural is correct. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong answer. Okay, so your bonus. Name the author associated with each of the following works of art and from the given initials. Number 1, the work of art is The Card Players. The initials are PC. Number 2, Nude Descending a Staircase. Initials MD. Number 3, The Scream. Initials EM. And number 4, The Arnolfini Wedding. Initials JE.
We
Alex?
we don't have any of them.
No answers? Okay, how about at Northside?
None of them.
None? Okay, number 1, Paul Cézanne. Number 2, Marcel Duchamp. Number 3, Edvard Munch. And number 4, Jan van Eyck. Chemistry. This noble gas is inert and colorless unless excited by Rico.
Neon.
Incorrect, and I'll read it from the beginning for Richlands. This noble gas is inert and colorless unless excited by an electric current to display a colorful flow. Name this gas whose atomic number is 18. Madison.
Argon?
Argon's correct. For your bonus, name each gas or identify each idea associated with gases. Number 1, of the gases that make up dry air, the one that is sixth in abundance. Number 2, odorless, colorless gas used to illuminate lights. Number 3, 2 of the noble gases for which no compounds are known. Number 4, medical use for gases classified as NMDA antagonist receptors. Alex.
For 1, we have oxygen. For 2, we have neon. For 3, we have xenon and fluorine. And for 4, we don't have anything.
Number 2 is correct for 2 points. Northside, 1, 3, or 4.
For number 3, we have xenon and krypton.
Number 1 is helium. Number 3 is helium and argon. And number 4, they're used in anesthetics or anesthesiology. That's the end of round 2. We'll be back with a lightning round right after this.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
And after 2 rounds, our score is Northside 33, Richlands 28. We have new players to meet. We'll start with one from Richlands.
Kira Cox, sophomore.
And for Northside, we have...
Elena Romero, freshman.
Emily Mifflin, sophomore.
In the lightning round, all the answers will have a double P in them, players. Someplace at the beginning, middle, or end of the word. Number 1, tropical fruit that outwardly Austin.
Pineapple.
Correct. Bug, also known as a locust. Sorry, too long. Jeff Dunham's profession. Alex.
I'm sorry.
Incorrect. A very fast sailing ship. A motorcycle with long front ends. Justin.
Chopper.
Correct. A person learning a trade from a skilled employer. Kira.
Apprentice.
Correct. 1960s subculture youth movement started in the Austin.
Hippie.
Correct. Iced coffee beverage made from instant coffee. Madison.
Frappe.
Right. To fail to fill hopes or expectations. Kira.
Disappoint.
Right. Master of a ship or Barbie's little... Brian.
Captain.
Incorrect. One of the world's most distributed tropical fish. Musical about the hunchback son of Charlemagne. Type of ridged airship named after a German count. Kira.
Zeppelin.
Correct. To add an extra element or amount to. Hand clapping as a demonstration of approval. Austin.
Applause.
Right. Candy canes are usually flavored with this. Kira.
Peppermint.
Right. Name of a computer company. Kira.
Apple.
Right. Packaging around candy. Kira.
Wrapper.
Correct. To hold up as with a bearing wall. Austin.
Support.
And the way that someone or something looks. Austin.
Appearance.
Correct. All right, the ones we didn't get, a bug, also known as a locust, is a grasshopper. Jeff Dunham's profession is a puppeteer. A very fast sailing ship is a clipper. Master of a ship, or Barbie's little sister, skipper. A guppy is one of the world's most distributed tropical fish. A musical about the hunchback son of Charlemagne is Pippin, and to add an extra element or amount to is to supplement. We'll come back with our final score in just a moment.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
In our final score today, Richlands has 54, Northside 37. Academic Derby is a locally funded production of the Onslow County Schools. We'd like to thank you for watching today, and please join us again next week when Northside returns to face Swansboro and Jacksonville will take on Southwest.
Why I teach is because I love sharing the success with my students, whether it's them learning something new for the first time or a concept that they never thought that they would understand, and also when they get accepted into programs such as governor's school or college or even receiving scholarships. I got into teaching because I had a high school math teacher who inspired me to teach. She was very fair in the way that she did things, and I just loved her class. I loved learning, and it's something that I wanted to be able to share with other students.
Welcome to High School Academic Derby, brought to you by the Onslow County Schools. Today we have a match between Jacksonville and Southwest. Our scorekeeper today is Alex Kirk. The coach of Jacksonville is Tony Zernheld, and these are his players for round one.
Kale Quintero, sophomore.
Owen Schnitzler, junior.
Ryan Rush, senior. Hugh Nasant, senior.
Southwest is coached by Krista Watts, and these are her players.
Tristan Gwynn, sophomore. Elijah Moore, sophomore.
Morgan Starling, junior.
Lisa Urban, sophomore.
Players, your first toss-up is from drama. Moliere's title characters Elmira and Valerie accompany this third character as three of the greatest classical theater roles. Who is this title character, also known as the imposter? Answer is Tartuffe. Presidents. His nicknames included the Lion, the Trust Buster, and the Conservationist President. Brian.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each person whose last name begins with a letter R. Number 1, the French Impressionist painter who created Luncheon of the Boating Party. Number 2, the first American woman to enter outer space. Number 3, the French philosopher and writer whose works include The Social Contract. Number 4, a Russian composer, the creator of The Flight of the Bumblebee. Owen.
For number 1, we have Renoir. For number 2, we have Ride. And for number 3, we have Rousseau.
Those are all correct for 6 points. Number 4, Southwest.
We don't have anything.
Number 4 is Rimsky-Korsakov. Geography. Which Canadian province serves as the setting for L.M. Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables? Its capital is Charlottetown. The answer is Prince Edward Island. Your next toss-up deals with acronyms. With regard to books, what is the meaning of the acronym ISBN? The answer is International Standard Book Number. Biology. Into which scientific phylum are lampreys, sharks, and rays classified? The answer is Chordata. Your next toss-up deals with legal terminology. With the automatic right of survivorship upon the death of a spouse, the commonly held property becomes solely the property of the other surviving spouse. What's the two-word term for this legal situation? It's called joint tenancy. Geography. This former Soviet Republic borders both the Baltic Sea and the Gulf of Finland. Name this small country whose capital is Tallinn. The answer is Estonia. We have a math calculation, so it'll be read twice. Solve the following equation for x. 8 to the x power equals 16. Express your answer as an improper fraction in simplest form. Solve the following equation for x. 8 to the x power equals 16. Express your answer as an improper fraction in simplest form. Brian.
4/3.
That's correct. For your bonus, solve each equation or simplify the given expression. Number 1, log base 8 of 1 equals x. Number 2, 3x squared plus 18x plus 24 equals 0. Number 3, 2 log x plus log 4 equal 2. Number 4, 8x squared minus 512 equals 0. And Owen.
For number 1, we have x equals 0, and that's it.
That is correct for 2 points. Southwest, 2, 3, or 4.
We don't have anything.
Okay, for number 2, there are two answers. X equals -2, x equals -4. Number 3, x equals 5. And number 4, x equals either +8 or -8. Okay? Your next toss-up has to do with Shakespeare. In William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, to which Roman class are Brutus and Cassius speaking when Brutus remarks, "This is my answer, not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more"? The answer begins with a P. Hugh.
Plebeians.
That's correct. For your bonus, complete the quote from a Shakespearean work with the indicated number of words. Number 1, you'll complete it with 4 words, and it begins, "This was the noblest blank." Number 2 also will be completed with 4 words. "It is too full of the blank." Number 3, to be completed with 3 words. "Let's carve him as a dish fit blank. And number 4, to be answered with 3 words. If music be the blank, play on.
We don't have any.
Okay, Southwest, any answers?
For number 3, we have for a king.
You're close on that. It's for the gods. The answer to number 1, he was the noblest Roman of them all, was the answer. And number 2 comes from Macbeth. It is too full of the milk of human kindness. Number 3, as we said, was for the gods. Number 4, if music be the food of love, play on. Geography. Identify the South Pacific island where Polynesians carve huge stone statues. Huge.
Easter Island.
Right. For your bonus, identify each of the following European sites. Number 1, the ancient city near Naples that was buried for 1,700 years under ash from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Number 2, the country where one could visit the museum dedicated to author Hans Christian Andersen. Number 3, the national monument in Wyoming, whose summit rises 5,114 feet above sea level, and which was featured prominently in the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And number 4, the country that is home to Dracula's castle in the city of Bran, B-R-A-N. Owen.
For number 1, we have Pompeii. For number 2, we have Sweden. For number 3, we have Devil's Tower. And for number 4, we have Romania.
1, 3, and 4 are correct for 6 points. Number 2, Southwest.
We don't have anything.
The country is Denmark. Anatomy. Which sensory membrane receives images formed by the lens of the eye and converts them into signals that reach the brain by way of the optic nerve? It also contains the rods and cones. Hugh.
Cornea.
Incorrect. Southwest. The retina. Vocabulary. When one is requested to perform an analysis and to judge an article or a presentation by noting both the strong and weak points, what process that begins with the letter C is utilized? Brian?
Criticism.
Criticism is correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following verbs related to learning based on the definition and first letter of the correct response. Number 1, beginning with the letter P and meaning to make a formal, logical argument based on evidence or known facts. Number 2, beginning with O, present a series of main points in appropriate order. Number 3, starting with T, narrate a course of events chronologically. And number 4, beginning with an I, explain the meaning of a work of literature beyond what the words literally mean. Owen.
For number 1, we have prove. For number 2, we have organization. For number 3, we have time. And for number 4, we have interpret.
1 and 4 correct for 4 points. Southwest, 2 or 3?
No, sir.
Number 2 is outline, and number 3 is trace. That's the end of round 1. We'll come back with the score in round 2 right after this.
I teach because I want to give my students the passion that I had about math. So I try to be enthusiastic so that maybe one of them, I don't know, they might be a math teacher or go into engineering. And if they don't go into math, at least they can see the passion that I bring and that they can at least enjoy it.
And what I've been learning over the years is that it's not just about the knowledge, but it's also about getting to know the students and making connections. And I hope that's what I bring to my students, and that's why I teach.
After one round, our score is Jacksonville 28, Southwest 0. We have new players to meet for both teams, and we'll start with those from Jacksonville.
Austin Darty, sophomore.
Roman Peterson, junior.
Diana Luther, senior.
From Southwest, we have
April Gower, freshman.
Christina Andrews, junior.
Maddox Bulvers, junior.
Julia Yates, junior.
Toss-up we'll start with is from math, and I will read it twice for you. Consider the data set 2, 5, 9, 3, 29, 7. What name is used to describe the element 29 with regard to this set? Maddox.
An outlier?
Yes, that's correct. We would also accept extreme. For your bonus, identify each of the following related to mathematics. Number 1, the mean and standard deviation of a standard normal distribution. Number 2, the type of statistical experiment that consists of exactly n trials, each of which has 2 possible outcomes whose probabilities are constant throughout the trials. Number 3, characteristic of a data set evaluated by range, standard deviation, and variance. Number 4, the adjective that describes a data set with 2 modes. Maddox.
For number 1, we have average.
Okay, that's not correct. Jacksonville, any of the 4?
We don't have any.
Number 1, the answers are 0 and 1, respectively. Number 2 is called a binomial experiment. Number 3, either dispersion or spread. And number 4, bimodal. Mythology. On the walls of Carthage, this Achaean hero is depicted dragging Hector around the walls of Troy in a mural of the Trojan War. Who is he? Owen.
Achilles.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following also associated with the Aeneid. Number 1, name the main character or protagonist. Number 2, give the name of the Queen of Carthage. Number 3, name the author of the Aeneid. And number 4, name the civilization that, according to the poem, originated with the hero of this epic. Owen.
For number 4, we have the Roman civilization.
That's correct for 2 points. Southwest, 1, 2, or 3?
For number 3, we have Homer.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
For number 3, we have Homer.
No, number 3 is Virgil. And the answers to number 1 and 2 are Aeneas is the main character and Dido is the Queen of Carthage. State parks. Among all U.S. state parks, this park is both the smallest and the most visited. Identify this Massachusetts park that designates the location where the Pilgrims disembarked from the Mayflower. Owen.
Plymouth.
I need a more complete answer.
Plymouth Rock.
Yes, I'll accept that. For your bonus, identify each of the following associated with colonial America. Number 1, the first university founded in colonial America in 1636. Number 2, the early religious group also known as the Society of Friends. Number 3, the colony that once was named North Virginia and was under the jurisdiction of Massachusetts. And number 4, the first important agriculturalist in the U.S. She developed indigo as a successful cash crop in colonial South Carolina. Owen.
For number 1, we have Harvard. For number 2, we have the Quakers. And for number 3, we have Maine.
1 and 2 are correct for 4 points. Southwest, 3 or 4?
For number 3, we have Maryland.
Number 3 is New Hampshire, and number 4, Eliza Lucas Pinckney. American authors. This renowned American author and influential voice composed the poem On the Pulse of the Morning for President William Jefferson Clinton's inauguration. Who is this author? Perhaps best known for her quote, "A bird doesn't sing because it has an answer, it sings because it has a song." Julia.
Maya Angelou.
Correct. For your bonus, name each of the following female authors from the description given. Number 1, she explored the more fringe topics in her books Them and Solstice. Number 2, the first African American to win the Newbery Medal for her book M.C. Higgins the Great. Number 4, author of O Pioneers and Death Comes for the Archbishop. And number 4, she explored mental illness in her novels The Bird's Nest and The Haunting of Hill House, and as well in her short story The Lottery. Maddox.
We don't have anything.
Jacksonville.
We don't have any.
Joyce Carol Oates wrote Solstice. Virginia Hamilton was the first African American to win the Newbery Medal. Author of O Pioneers is Willa Cather, and it was Shirley Jackson who wrote The Bird's Nest and The Lottery. U.S. history. Following World War II, which U.S. military leader's plan dubbed General Order 1 created an artificial line at the 38th parallel in Korea? Owen.
MacArthur.
Correct. For your bonus, identify the century during which each of the following wars or conflicts came to an end. Number 1, the French and Indian War. Number 2, the Falklands War. Number 3, the Crimean War. Number 4, the First Opium War. And Owen.
For number 1, we have the 18th century. For number 2, we have the 17th century. For number 3, we have the 15th century. And for number 4, we have the 20th century.
Number 1 is correct for 2 points. Southwest, 2, 3, or 4?
For number 2, we have the 16th century. For number 12, we have the number 3, we have the 12th century.
Okay.
And for number 4, we have the 15th century.
The Falklands War took place in the 20th century. The Crimean War and the First Opium War both in the 19th century. Scientists. Possibly best known for his work on Chicago Pile 1 and for his contributions to the development of quantum theory, nuclear and particle physics, this Italian physicist is considered the chief architect of the nuclear age. Name him. Enrico Fermi. Latin phrases. While Homo loquens refers to speaking man, which two-word Latin phrase refers to thinking man? Roman.
Homo sapien.
Right. For your bonus, identify each of the following Latin or Greek roots. Number 1, that is, give the meaning of the word. Belli, as in belligerent. Number 2, vertere, as in avert. Number 3, cas, as in cascade. And number 4, tele, as in telecast. Owen.
For number 1, we have rude, and for number 3, we have fall.
Number 3 is correct for 2 points. 1, 2, or 4, Southwest.
For number 2, we have to go around, and for number 4, we have watch.
I will accept number 2 for 2 points. 1 is war, belligerent, warlike, and number 4 is far away, or just far. Math term, 1 reading only. If set A contains the rational numbers and set B contains the irrational numbers, what set is designated by the union of sets A and B? Roman.
All real numbers.
That's correct. Perform each of the following calculations for your bonus. Number 1, find the length of the diameter of circle O. If points A and B lie on the circle, the area of sector AOB is 10 pi square units, and the measure of central angle AOB is 100 degrees. Number 2, find the number of sides of a regular polygon if the ratio of the measure of an exterior angle to an interior angle is 2 to 13. Number 3, find the coefficient of the middle term of the expansion quantity x plus y raised to the 4th power. Number 4, if you have 7 articles to use for a research paper, in how many ways can you choose 5 to read? Owen.
For number 3, we have 4, and for number 4, we have 35.
Neither of those is correct, Southwest, any of the 4?
We don't have anything.
The answer to number 1 is 12, to number 2, 15, to number 3, 6, and number 4, 21. End of round 2. In just a moment, we'll come back with a score and our lightning round.
All right, you ready for some baseball trivia?
Let's do it.
What year produced the most no-hit games in the big leagues?
7 no-hitters in 1990.
Wow, that's right. Now a question that's not trivial. How many children will witness bullying this year?
Huh.
The answer? 3 out of 4.
75%?
That's right. How many of them will say something?
Kids want to help, but don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov.
After 2 rounds, the score is Jacksonville 48, Southwest 6. We have new players to meet for Jacksonville.
Uzi Coleman, sophomore.
Monty Arcott, freshman.
William Alfonso, senior.
The lightning round will be 2 minutes long or 20 questions, whichever comes first. The answers today all deal with U.S. presidents. The one responsible for the start of the Social Security program, William.
FDR.
Correct. The one who created NASA in 1958. William.
Eisenhower.
Correct. The one who created the Peace Corps in the early 1960s, Lizzie.
JFK.
Correct. The one who established relations with the People's Republic of China, Lizzie.
Richard Nixon.
Right. The one who pardoned Vietnam draft resistors in the 1970s. The one who created the 1,000 Points of Light program. The name of the president's plane, William.
Air Force One.
Correct. The Maryland retreat reserved for, William.
Camp David.
Correct. The one who waged a war on poverty in the 60s. No. Song traditionally played for the U.S. president, William.
Hail to the Chief.
Correct. The only president to be unanimously elected, Brian.
George Washington.
That's right. What does the S stand for in President Truman's name? William.
Nothing.
Correct. This North Carolina-born 17th president was a tailor by trade, William.
Andrew Jackson.
Incorrect. He was the first president to be inaugurated in the District of Columbia. This 538-member institution is extremely important to presidential candidates every 4 years. William.
Electoral College.
Right. The name of the youngest man ever to serve as president. Brian.
JFK.
Incorrect. Who was the tallest president? William.
Abraham Lincoln.
Correct. The first inaugural ball was held by what president whose wife was noted for her social gifts? Which president won the first Nobel Peace Prize? Who was our second president? William.
John Adams.
Correct. All right, the ones we either didn't answer or missed. Jimmy Carter pardoned Vietnam draft resistors. George H.W. Bush created the 1,000 Points of Light program. Lyndon Johnson started the war on poverty. It was Andrew Johnson, who was born in North Carolina, was our 17th president. Thomas Jefferson was the first to be inaugurated in D.C. Theodore Roosevelt was the youngest to serve as president. John Kennedy was the youngest elected. A little bit of a difference there. James Madison held the first inaugural ball, and Teddy Roosevelt won our first Nobel Peace Prize as president. We'll come back with a final score in just a moment.
Son, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Our final score today is Jacksonville 72, Southwest 10. Please stay with us for today's second game, in which we will have Swansboro playing Northside.
Why I teach? I teach to inspire, to influence, and to instruct our students for the future. I think that education is one of the biggest investments that a nation can make. It's going to make the biggest difference in how successful we are as a nation, and that is the main reason that I decided to become an educator in order to inspire, influence, and instruct. I was inspired by many of my previous teachers, by my parents. Education has always been an important piece of my life, and that is why I'm here.
And welcome back to High School Academic Derby, brought to you by the Onslow County Schools. Our second match today is between Swansboro and Northside. We'll meet our coaches and players, starting with Northside. The coach of Northside is Rachel Livermore, and her players for this round are
Janae Brown, Jr.
Brian Wharton, Senior.
Rico Castillo, Jr.
Gage Hall, Senior.
The Swansboro coach is Julie White. Her players will be
Sunny Collins, Jr.
Christina Stair, Sophomore.
Katie Collins, Jr.
Aaron Wooten, Jr.
First toss-up players deals with medicine. Rather than performing invasive surgery, a urologist now has the option of pulverizing kidney stones by a procedure called lithotripsy. What does it usually use to accomplish, Brian?
Sound waves.
Correct. For your bonus, give the more common name for each of the following medical aberrations. Number 1, dysphagia. D-Y-S-P-H-A-G-I-A. Number 2, pruritus, P-R-U-R-I-T-I-S. Number 3, tachycardia. And number 4, diaphoresis, D-I-A-P-H-O-R-E-S-I-S. Brian.
For number 3, we have a heart attack.
Which number 3?
For number 3.
That's incorrect. Swansboro, any of the 4?
We have nothing.
Number 1, difficulty swallowing. Number 2, itching. Number 3, a rapid heartbeat. And number 4, profuse perspiration. Chemistry. Which process was used by Sir Humphrey Davy in the early 1800s when he decomposed various compounds to discover barium, calcium, potassium, and sodium? Electrolysis. World history. Which Roman emperor who served from 37 to 41 AD was nicknamed Little Boots because he traveled with his father as a youth on military campaigns and wore a soldier's uniform? He is perhaps better known for his desire to designate his horse Incitatus a consul of Rome. Brian.
Octavius.
Incorrect. Swansboro. Katie.
Augustus.
Caligula. Your next toss-up deals with rhetoric. Which term from rhetoric or language arts beginning with the letters A-N is defined as a comparison of the like features of two things, especially for the purpose of Rico.
Analogy.
Correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following nouns that also begin with the letters A-N. Number 1, an imaging test to view the blood flow in an artery. Number 2, the part of a stamen of a seed plant that produces and contains pollen. Number 3, a hard, glossy form of coal. Number 4, an herb related to parsley having small, licorice-flavored seeds. Brian.
For number 3, we have anthracite.
That's correct for 2 points. 1, 2, or 4, Swansboro?
We have none.
Number 1 is an angiogram. Number 2, an anther. Number 3, anise. Literature. Nathaniel Hawthorne, William Cullen Bryant, and James Fenimore Cooper were all authors associated with which 19th century literary movement that took place between the Jacksonian era and the close of the Civil War? Katie.
Transcendentalism?
That's correct. Romanticism is another possible correct answer. For your bonus, complete the name of the title of each work by a Romantic author with the given number of words. Number 1, the answer that you give will have 2 words, The Mask of the blank blank by Edgar Allan Poe. Number 2, 2 words, The Minister's blank blank by Hawthorne. Number 3 has 1 word, To a blank by William Cullen Bryant. And number 4, 1 word answer, The Maine, M-A-I-N-E, like the state, blank by Henry David Thoreau. Katie.
For number 1, we have Red Death.
Any other answers?
No.
That's correct for 2 points. 2, 3, or 4, Northside?
None of them.
It's The Minister's Black Veil, To a Waterfowl, and The Maine Woods. Geology. According to the geologic time scale, this period took place during the Paleozoic era, immediately following the Triassic period of the Mesozoic era. Identify this period that ended with the largest mass extinction in the history of the earth. Katie.
Jurassic.
Incorrect. Northside. Rico.
Paleolithic.
It's the Permian. Legal terms. Legally speaking, which noun that begins with the letter T designates a wrongful act or an infringement of a right, other than under contract, that leads to a civil legal liability? Rico.
Treachery.
Nope. Swansboro. It's a tort. Geography. In April 2010, this Southern European nation's government requested its first $60 billion bailout from the European Union and International Monetary Fund, prompting Standard & Poor's to downgrade its bond ratings to junk status. Name this peninsular country still enduring. Katie.
Greece.
Greece is correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following also associated with the country of Greece. Number 1, name its highest mountain. Number 2, the year during which the first Olympic Games occurred in Greece. Number 3, name the Greek shipping magnate whom former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy married in 1968. And number 4, give the two-word phrase that is the official name of the country. Katie.
For number 1, we have Olympus.
That's correct for 2 points. 2, 3, or 4, Northside?
For 2, we have 1898.
No, the first one was in 776 BC. Number 3, Aristotle Onassis. Number 4, the Hellenic Republic. Astronomy. First thought to be a planet, this heavenly body was actually the first asteroid discovered. It has, since 2006, been classified as a dwarf planet. Name this rock ice, Brian.
Pluto.
That's incorrect, and I'll read it from the beginning for Swansboro. First thought to be a planet, this heavenly body was actually the first asteroid discovered. It has, since 2006, been classified as a dwarf planet. Name this rock ice body located in the inner solar system, named for the Roman goddess of agriculture. Katie.
Demeter.
It's Ceres. Vocabulary. Identify the 6-letter adjective beginning with the letter F used to describe a person who is sparing or economical. Brian.
Frugal.
Right. For your bonus, provide an antonym of each of the following words given the number of letters and the first letter for each correct response. All right, I need an antonym for, number 1, diminish, that has 4 letters and that begins with a G. Number 2, antonym for muster. It will have 7 letters and begin with S. Number 3, an antonym for honesty that has 5 letters and begins with G. And number 4, an antonym for small that has 4 letters and begins with V, as in Victor. Brian.
For number 1, we have grow, and for number 2, we have survive.
Number 1's correct for 2 points. Swansboro, 2, 3, or 4?
For number 3, we have guile.
That is correct as well for 2 points. Number 2 is scatter. Number 4 is vast. End of round 1. We'll come back with round 2 and our score right after this.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
After 1 round, our score is Swansboro 11, Northside 10. And we have some new players to meet for both teams. We'll start with those from Northside.
Justin Batista, sophomore. James McBroom, Senior.
And from Swansboro?
Jennifer Narvaez, sophomore.
Lacey Miglio, sophomore.
First toss-up deals with geography. This Asian city is over 3,500 years old. During its history, many empires have waged war over its strategic location in Afghanistan along the trade routes of South and Central Asia. Name this city whose mayor is Muhammad Yunus Nawandish. It's Kabul. Math calculation, I'll read it twice for you. What is the determinant of the 2 by 2 matrix with a first row 1, 4 from left to right and a second row 5, -2 from left to right? What is the determinant of the 2 by 2 matrix with first row 1, 4 from left to right and second row 5, -2 from left to right? James.
18.
Incorrect. Swansboro? The answer is -22. Music. Identify the composer whose 5th and 6th symphonies, although somewhat shortened in the more recent version, were included in the soundtracks of both versions of the animated movie Fantasia, first in 1940 and then again in 2000. Katie.
Mozart.
Incorrect. Northside? Rico.
Bach.
It's Beethoven. Literature. Give the name of the Mark Twain novel that begins with this line: "In the ancient city of London, on a certain autumn day in the second quarter of the 16th century, a boy was born to a poor family of the name of Canty, who did not want him." Rico. Swansboro? The Prince and the Pauper. U.S. history. During which U.S. president's leadership in 1911 was the number of representatives in the House increased from 391 to 433? Brian.
Woodrow Wilson.
Incorrect. Swansboro? William Howard Taft. Physics. Acceleration is the rate of change of velocity. Identify the physics term used to designate rate of change of acceleration. You can call it the jerk or the jolt. Music. Which Irish flutist was nicknamed the Pied Piper of music and the man with a golden flute, and was recognized as the first solo flute performer of the entertainment world? James Galway. This next question deals with math terminology, so it'll be read only once. In describing sets of numbers, two notations are prevalent in algebra. While set builder notation uses braces and the terminology the set of all x such that x is an element of, which type of notation uses brackets, parentheses, and infinity symbols to identify sets? It's called interval notation. World history. The 1494 Treaty of Tordesillas divided the New World between what two countries? Justin.
Spain and Portugal.
That's correct. For your bonus, answer the following questions about a treaty or a conference based on the information given. Number 1, in the year 1868, the Burlingame Treaty established relations between the United States and what Asian nation? Number 2, in 1899, what convention with associated treaties established the first international laws of war? Number 3, Name the 1945 conference that was the first meeting of the Allies related to occupation and reconstruction of Germany following World War II. And number 4, in 1819, the Adams-Onis Treaty gained Florida to the U.S. from Spain for $5 million. It was negotiated by John Quincy Adams under which president? Okay, Brian?
For number 1, we have China. For 2, we have Geneva Convention. And for number 4, we have Thomas Jefferson.
China is correct for number 1 for 2 points. 2, 3, or 4, Swansboro? Answers, please.
For number 1, we have Vietnam. For number 3, we have Versailles, and for number 4, we have Monroe.
Number 4 is James Monroe for 2 points. The answer to number 2 was the Hague Treaties. Number 3, the Potsdam Conference. Drama. In the anonymous morality play Everyman, when summoned by God to appear before death, only one friend is willing to accompany Everyman. Who is this symbolic friend? Good deeds. Toss-up dealing with World War II. Which German leader, noted as the man who controlled the program directly responsible for the extermination of the Jewish people, served as both the head of the SS and as the Minister of the Interior during World War... Brian?
Himmler?
Himmler's correct. For your bonus, identify each of the following also associated with World War II. Number 1, the nation that suffered the highest number of casualties, reported at approximately 42 million. Number 2, the name given to the massive invasion of the Soviet Union from the Baltic shore in the north to the Black Sea in the south that began on June 22, 1941. Number 3, German term for its new style of warfare that came to refer to combined arms tactics involving rapid maneuver. Number 4, named either of the 2 American commanders who first gained fame during the North African campaign and went on to greater achievements during the Normandy invasion and Battle of France. Brian.
For Germany, or for number 1, we have Germany. For 2, we have Operation Barbarossa. For 3, we have Blitzkrieg. And for number 4, we have Patton.
2, 3, and 4 are correct. You could have also answered Omar Bradley for the last one, so you have 6 points there. Number 1, Swansboro?
For number 1, we have France.
It's Russia. Science. In the language of science, this adjective describes the belly side of an organism and begins with the letter V. Name it. Ventral. Math term, so just one reading here. With which metric prefix would one associate the value of 10 to the 12th power? James?
Tera.
That's correct. For your bonus, give the metric prefixes for each of the following powers of 10. Number 1, 10 to the negative third. Number 2, 10 to the negative 9. Number 3, 10 to the 6th power. And number 4, 10 to the negative 24th power. Brian.
For number 1, we have milli. For 2, we have pico. And for number 4, we have nano.
Number 1 is correct for 2 points. 2, 3, or 4, Swansboro?
We don't have any.
Number 2 was nano. Number 3 is mega. And number 4 is yocto. Biology. Supported by the work of previous generations of scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick's 1953 DNA-related discovery gave rise to modern molecular biology. Which twisted ladder structure did Watson and Crick demonstrate? Justin?
DNA.
Incorrect, and I'll read it from the beginning for Swansboro. Supported by the work of previous generations of scientists, Watson and Crick's 1953 DNA-related discovery gave rise to modern molecular biology. Which twisted ladder structure did Watson and Crick demonstrate was the foundation of DNA? Katie?
Double helix.
Double helix. For your bonus, identify each phrase that also will contain the word double. Number 1, the activity of receiving money from 2 different places or 2 different jobs, often when it is not legal. Number 2, something that offers both a positive and negative consequence, as in it cuts both ways. Number 3, to hold one group accountable for a rule, but not enforce that same rule among all groups. And number 4, a crossbar on a wagon or a plow. Katie?
For number 1, we have double pay. For number 3, we have double standard. And for number 4, we have double axle.
Number 3 is correct for 2 points. Northside, 1, 2, or 4.
For number 1, we have double income, and for number 4, we have double bar.
Number 1 is called double dipping. Number 2, a double-edged sword. And number 4, a double tree. That's the end of round 2. We'll come back with our score and lightning round right after this.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
And after 2 rounds, our score is Northside 26, Swansboro 18. We have one new player to introduce for Northside.
Jasmine Bryant, freshman.
In the lightning round, as you know, we'll have 20 questions or 2 minutes, whichever comes first. In this round, all of the answers will have a cue at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end of the word. Ready? A province in Canada. Katie?
Quebec.
Right. The dividing line between the northern and southern hemispheres. Justin?
Equator.
Right. A zodiac sign that occurs between January 20th. Brian?
Aquarius.
Correct. A word from Latin meaning equal night. Jasmine?
Equinox.
Correct. George Bush's, that's George H.W. Bush's vice president. The French word for 5. Katie?
Cot.
Incorrect. A sea mollusk having 8 arms and 2 long tentacles. Brian?
Squid.
Correct. A light turquoise color. Rico?
Aqua.
Correct. Noise a duck makes. Katie?
Quack.
Correct. A mathematical calculation. Katie?
Equation.
Correct. One of a kind. Christina?
Unique.
Right. Complete this. I came, I saw, Aaron?
Conquered.
Correct. Not transparent, meaning not able. Brian?
Opaque.
Correct. A large, deep pit from which minerals are extracted. Katie?
Quarry.
Correct. A lit sign at the entrance of a hotel or a theater. Katie?
Marquee.
Correct. A bunch of flowers. Katie?
Bouquet.
Right. A mass of bacteria that can grow around your teeth. Justin?
Plaque.
Right. To repeat words from a book or author. Christina?
Quote.
Right. 2 pints equals 1. Christina?
Quart.
Correct. Small or medium-sized rodents related to chipmunks and marmots. Katie?
Chinchilla.
Incorrect. All right, here are the ones we either missed or didn't answer. George Bush's vice president was Dan Quayle. The French word for 5 is cinq, And the last one, it's squirrels, who are related to chipmunks and marmots. We'll come back with our final score in just a moment.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
And in today's match, our final score is Northside 44, Swansboro 38. As you know, Academic Derby is a production of the Onslow County Schools. We thank you for watching today, and please join us next week when Northside will return to play Dixon and Jacksonville will take on Richlands.